Welcome to the Better Stack podcast, where we have conversations about AI, software dev, and all kinds of new technology. I'm one of your hosts, Richard, and I'm joined by
James.
Andrews, hi.
And Bashbunni, hello.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Bash. It's good to have you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me.
I think out of everyone else here, so me, James, and Andrews, I'm the one who kind of does most terminal stuff. So I think it would be good for you just to give an intro of kind of what you do, and particularly how you ended up using Emacs, because I'm quite curious on that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I just quit my job not too long ago at Charm, which was a terminal tooling company. I worked there for almost 4 years, maintaining a lot of the open source tools that we had there. And I kind of ended up, I feel like, in that niche because my good friend Prime kind of pressured me into learning NeoVim at one point. It was like when I first started streaming, I think it was like my second ever live stream, and he raided me and then got all of his chatters to tell me to try Vim. And then at that point too, it's like you're so like easily peer pressured. It's like I have like 12 viewers, and I was just like, okay, yes, okay, there's like 50 people here telling me to use Vim. Okay. And I think that kind of brought me into the terminal landscape a little bit more, kind of taught me like more things that I could do on the command line. And it was one of those things where like I had done some automation stuff, some like scripting at previous jobs. And I felt the power of that a little bit. Like I was doing some like different PowerShell scripting and stuff. And it like really allowed me to do my job a lot faster and with a lot less headache without having to deal with any of the bugs from like the different GUIs that I would be interacting with. So it was kind of something I was familiar with before, but yeah, kind of jump back into it. When I started learning Vim, I realized how powerful it is to be able to like understand how things work and be able to run your programs in your terminal, just know some of the basic things that you can do there. And then, getting more into like customizing a lot of my setup and just learning how to do all of that stuff. And then, like live streaming, that kind of thing. It got me more interested in building out different TUIs and like applications in the terminal. I came across all of Charm's toolings and started building stuff with their stuff, and they reached out and wanted to work together. And then started maintaining all their tools and working with the community and seeing some pretty incredible things being built in terminals. So
Prime was responsible for your job or your old job?
That's a stretch. Okay, we can't inflate his ego like that. Okay, we know. I'll thank the chatters. Okay, okay. Chat gets credit. Prime is whatever. It's fine.
And are you like now fully integrated with like a dual keyboard and everything?
I do have a split keyboard, but I never use it. I have to. I gotta sell it or something. I got a Dactyl Manuform, so it's like. It's like a 3D printed, like open source, like the design of it is open source, but there's no like company behind like that actually builds Dactyl Manuform keyboards. I got it from some guy on Reddit. Yeah. So I'm too scared to like remap the keys and stuff. I feel like I'm going to break it somehow. And like just knowing me, cause I just am so good at breaking things. And yeah, and so it's kind of been a bit like unusable for me because it's a bit I need to tweak things, and then it's like I don't know. It's fine. I've tried using it before. I got pretty decent at typing with it, but it's just like I don't think that it was that. I didn't find it that like revolutionary for me personally. But I also am pretty. I don't know. Maybe I have strong wrists. I'm built different, potentially. I haven't had any wrist pain yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I think split keyboards are a beast. I've got a regular mechanical keyboard, but with a split keyboard, I've heard you kind of unlearn keyboards and just like learn a new way of typing.
My first like real attempt with it was I was doing unfortunately Prime is once again involved in the story. It was we were doing a 24-hour stream. And we did a 12-hour coding portion and then a 12-hour gaming portion. And in the 12-hour coding portion, I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to break out my split keyboard. And I had an event for like I was going to I think GitHub Universe with with Charm, and we all the girls had gotten like GitHub girls and the Charm girls, we got our nails done. And I had like long nails. Like I got like the extensions. And so like the first time that I'm like, oh, perfect, I'm going to try getting used to this keyboard during a 12-hour coding stream. Well, what could be a better window for that? And then me having these like long fingernails, trying to figure out how to like having to like reposition my hands to be able to type properly. I was like, oh shit. This was, sorry, I'm not supposed to swear on this podcast probably.
It's fine.
I was like, oh man, this is more of a challenge than I signed up for, but yeah.
It's always like actually transitioning to using them is always the hard part, as we said earlier, like the ramp up to actually getting to the skill level where you're back to what you are on a normal keyboard. I always find that the hurdle that I have to overcome. It's the same with when I've tried NeoVim. It's like I can do so much already with VS Code and Cursor. It's getting to the point where I'm as productive, but I haven't been able to sink the time into yet. So how did you find switching over? Like how long did that process take for you to feel as productive in sort of the terminal as you were with normal tools?
At the time, I used VS Code with Vim keybinds.
Yeah.
For as long as possible. I wasn't even planning to move to Vim. I was like, yeah, like I just think the motions are good. Like I just think being able to like navigate your code like this is nice. And then there came a point where I was like kind of learning more and more about NeoVim, like different little commands you can run and all that stuff. And then they wouldn't run in VS Code. So then I was like, oh, okay, well now I'm reaching the point where like there's other things that I want to do above and beyond just the motions that I now have to do in Vim. So that that part kind of propelled me forward. But outside of that, I would have been fine with just like doing the motions in the editor. I think it's a good place to be too.
Yeah, maybe switching to the keybinds in VS Code is a good trick to sort of dip your toe in the water of getting used to it. That might be a good method next time I try.
Also, Vim Tutor is fun. If you ever if you open up Vim and you do :tutor with a capital T, it'll open up like a little interactive tutorial thing that teaches you how to like different little shortcuts and everything in Vim. And that it's really fun. Just like having a little morning cup of coffee and like doing that, it's like it's kind of like playing a game. I don't know. Feels gamified.
Yeah, I think Prime was responsible for a whole generation of people learning Vim. I've learned Vim, but he was one of the reasons as well. Somebody else at work was using it and kind of convinced me to try. But if I'm correct, you use Emacs. That's your main driver, right?
I do. Yeah.
So how did you get into that?
So I moved over to Doom Emacs. So it's a bit different because it's like one of the pre-built ones. It's very similar to using like Lunar Vim or Lazy Vim, where it's kind of like pre-built. And so part of my frustration that I was experiencing with NeoVim is that plugin authors, okay, again, I'm pretty sure I wasn't changing to any major version releases of the plugins. And yet every time I would update my plugins, my whole config would break. Like they were making a bunch of different like API changes, breaking changes that then required me to go and change a bunch of stuff in my config, which is fine maybe if you're a hobbyist, but also sometimes you just want to like sit down and just like actually do stuff. I'm like, I just got so sick of having to fix my config all the time. So it was that combined with, I have some pretty regular chatters. Shout out to Nix, who has been the most persistent Emacs user in my community for years. He's been like shilling Emacs since day one. But I kind of was at a point where I was trying to figure out also like a new way to kind of just like manage all of my tasks, because with my job at Charm, I was jumping around. I had like my hand in so many different pies. I was just jumping around so many different things. And I was just like, how do I keep track of everything? And I'd heard such good things about org mode. And so it kind of was like this perfect combination of like, I need a way to plan things out better. I want to try something new. I've heard great things about org mode. There's a built-in agenda. You can schedule your tasks. You can have all of your notes put together with your tasks. You can link files. You can do all this great stuff. So I'm curious to try that. And then also NeoVim is driving me insane. So I tried Doom because it was like, I knew a few people that used Doom and really, really liked it. And it was like the lowest lift coming from Vim, because it's actually like all Vim keybinds within Emacs. So the editing experience and everything was really good. And a lot of the skills kind of carried over. I actually found it a lot easier to learn than Vim. That said, I'm not doing a custom Emacs config. So I might eat those words when I start trying to write Emacs Lisp. But I just found like it was very well documented and easy to find things. Like you basically just do Alt X and you can fuzzy find through all of the available commands. And then it shows you like a little preview of the shortcuts for those commands. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like you don't have to spend that much time sitting and reading documentation to figure out how to use this thing. It's just like you can just learn as you go, which is really nice.
I had a question about your YouTube description. You said, taught your mom C++ instead of Rust. Are you like a Rust hater, or what is that about?
I just love, I love how like the Rust community is so, they have a deep love for their language, you know? And I just like to poke fun at them because they're so passionate and it gets them so riled up. And I think that people are too serious on the internet. I think there are topics that are important that we should discuss, but I don't think that every topic is super important and we should discuss. Like, there's just so many things. I think programmers in general just love to like be pedantic and like nitpick things, and I just love poking fun at that. So yeah, I like bullying the Rust users in particular. They're my favorite.
Period of the internet where everyone was like, let's rewrite everything in Rust. And it felt like everyone wanted you to rewrite any app in Rust because it would be quicker by like a millisecond.
I think there are still some like hardcore people who still believe that.
Oh, for sure.
Religion.
Yeah. I feel like people, I don't know if they started it as a joke or like it was like 50-50 on like some people are saying it jokingly and then some people are saying it like, no, we need to rewrite this in Rust because we need it to be safe. We need type safety. We need to write secure software. And then other people are just like, I just love Rust and I'm going to rewrite everything in Rust.
Yeah, Rust is cool, but I think people are moving on to Zig now. Zig is the big thing.
It is the hot new thing.
It's a classic programmer. Just move on to something else all the time. We love to do it.
Have any of you tried Zig?
Not yet. I'm thinking of doing it at some point, but I haven't tried it yet.
I gave it a shot a while ago. I think when it was like very new, because the documentation was not done, and that was tough. I do think that if you're somebody who probably likes the more kind of like low level languages where you have like full control of everything, it's probably a really good language. For me at the time, I was just like, I was trying to learn Haskell at the same time and then started trying to learn and then like added on Zig. And I was just like, why am I doing this? Who needs to hurt like this? Like nobody. I've heard really good things about it though. I am actually thinking about learning Rust this year. That is kind of my plan.
Oh, nice.
It's on the bingo card. Yeah.
Cool.
So I can join them finally.
I feel like there's this curve where you kind of get the hang of it and then you feel like you know everything. And then there's a point where you start questioning everything and yeah.
When the borrow checker comes in, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. The borrow checker. Yeah, that's
I've heard horror stories.
Yeah. So what is org mode? I heard you talk about it in the stream and I had no idea what that is in Emacs.
Ooh. Org mode, it's okay. So there's a special kind of like org file that you have in Emacs. It basically it's similar to it's just like a markup language. It's kind of like a way that you can like structure your notes and stuff like that. But there's a lot of kind of like extra things layered into it. So for example, you can have it's got if you use like the to do, like when you do capital to do and it like tracks it as a task. So org mode has that built in by default. It's got you can like time when you started. You can track when you started working on the task. You can schedule it for specific days. You can then see like you can basically have a bunch of different org files. So like have one for work, have one for personal, whatever. Schedule these things to happen on different days. You can have them recurring weekly. You can have whatever. And then also be able to see it in like the org agenda, which will show you basically a calendar view of like a weekly list of all of your tasks just based on these files. Which as somebody, I don't like moving data around. Like I'm literally working on a project right now that is just to be able to like write blog posts in Markdown and have it do everything else for you. You basically just have like, you write it in Markdown, you have front matter, which basically like, like the metadata, the top of a Markdown file to be able to say like when you want this thing to be due. And then you can see it in like a calendar view, and you can have a list, like you have a config file with the list of like what are going to be public, like whatever your public blog posts are supposed to be. And then it'll create an RSS feed and convert all of them to like static HTML pages that you can just put on your site. It's a very basic little project just for funsies, but it was kind of inspired by org, because it's also one of those things where it can also export to any file format. So like if you have org notes, you can do like org export, and you can export to PDF, HTML, Markdown, whatever. So it's kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, I want to do a blog. And then I was like, oh, I can just export everything to HTML with this. And then I realized I was even too lazy for that. So let me just rewrite the wheel here.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. You're doing it all in Go, like Golang, aren't you?
I'm doing it in Go this time. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you said you're not like a web server type person. You wouldn't write web servers. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm not much of a web developer. There's just a lot. I feel like there's a lot of like moving parts to that. And then I get kind of like, I'm not as interested in tying all those things together. Does that make sense? You know, I'm like,
it does. Yeah.
I just like kind of building, I guess, like more back end stuff, or I just like building out the functionality of like, actual, like just the behavior of the application, and then I move on.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think in my head, it's like a markdown tool is perfect for TypeScript, JavaScript, but you could do it in Go as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're like rendering Markdown and stuff. I never read Markdown outside of its like I never really read it rendered. I don't render it I don't really like,
I'm actually the total opposite.
Oh, really?
I just want to see pretty text formatted in a good design way, you know.
What's your favorite? Do you use like Joplin or Obsidian or something? What do you use?
I did use Obsidian for a while, but now I just like Notion. Notion's cool.
Nice. Yeah. Notion's powerful. There's a lot you can do in there.
Yeah.
Notion's a rabbit hole of tricks. There's some people do some crazy stuff on Notion that I'm still not completely there with.
I know. People got their side hustles on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to say my Notion, I've switched over from Obsidian as well, mainly because work used Notion. And then, my sort of way of doing to-do lists is just I have one big Notion called Brain Dump, where I just dump notes in there throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, like I'll review it and then
That's nice.
go through it. So maybe I need to try out, was it orgs?
Work mode?
It sounds like that could do well.
I'd say my biggest like pet peeve with it right now is, so there's something called org roam, which is what makes it actually like usable, accessible remotely. So otherwise it's just local. So I would need org roam to be able to like see any of my tasks, whatever, on my phone. So that's my biggest thing, is I feel like I do a lot of like brainstorming and stuff on my, like while I'm out, or just like away from my computer. So it's kind of one of those things I started trying to use org mode for, like content planning. And I just found that it ended up not being a good solution for that. I was using Trello forever. And then I recently switched over to Notion because all of my friends were telling me it was the way to go. And I was like, okay. It's been a year of me pushing back on this. Let me try it at least. And it's been pretty good. I will say it is really handy to be able to like, especially when you're doing like thumbnails and like working with graphics of any kind, like it's nice to be able to just embed that directly in the notes. There's just something so nice about just having everything in one place, right?
Yeah. That was my problem with Obsidian from memory, is that I think you had to pay to sync the files, and I was like, but it's just my own Markdown files. I just wanted to use them. But yeah.
I like that you do the brain dumps at the end of the day. I find that is like, I think that had to be one of the best things that I adopted to like finish the day as like, you know, because I feel like there can be, especially if you work from home, it can be really challenging to like create separation between workday and then the rest of the evening. And I always found just like writing down every single kind of like thought, question, open, like any loose ends, update all my projects, everything just in a little file, dated that like with the title is just the date.
Yeah.
You know?
It really helps me just the next day. It's like, what was I doing yesterday? It's like, it helps you disconnect because, you can, as you said, you can write it all down and then sort of forget for a bit.
It's nice too, because then it's like you can just, I never bother really titling my any of my files with anything meaningful. Generally, I'm okay to just leave it as like the date, and then it's like I just do a global search for specific words if I'm looking for a specific project or whatever. I just find it's like less. I don't know. I find that somehow easier, which is weird. I started having to like collaborate with someone else, like having like a shared folder with somebody else at work at one point. And they were just like, "What is this?" I was like, "Oh wait, they're not a developer. They're not used to doing the like just global searching everything." I was like, "Oh, okay, I got to be less chaotic."
Yeah, I think my Notion organization would scare some people. It's pretty similar in that I just sometimes start a new page randomly, and then if I need to go back to it, I'll just search for what I was writing on that page instead of like title or anything like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What are all of your stacks and languages of choice at the moment?
I'm primarily TypeScript at the moment.
Nice.
I've sort of lent to web dev later on in my career. I started out in Java for Minecraft, and then
I love
somehow transitioned from back end to sort of liking the front end and the sort of full stack web dev stuff.
That's so good. The pipeline from like video game to programming is incredible. I love that so much. It's such a great incentive.
Yeah, that's actually how I fell in love with C# because I started coding games in Unity, and then it's like, oh, C# is such a elegant language. I just like the syntax of C#.
So are you still into C# or is that's just what you got in with?
That's what I use primarily for like games, but
Nice.
but yeah, I'm also a big Python fan. I don't know.
Yeah?
Something about Python. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, Python's it's a very like flexible language. It feels like it's very. It kind of feels like you're writing pseudocode at a point too. It's like you don't kind of have to get like tripped up by the syntax or by like weird behavior, like weird like language specific things. Right? It's just
sometimes on the editor it might look weird, like the tab spacing and which tab like is indented or not, but once you get used to it, it's pretty cool, at least for me.
Yeah, I learned with Python was my first language.
Oh, I actually wanted to ask that, like when you started your coding journey, what was your first experience? So that was Python, right?
It was Python in university. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started with Python. That was my first ever exposure. I had never seen code in my life until university CS classes. I will say I'm really glad they started us off with Python, because I think if they would have started us off with like C or something like that, and then it's also the first time that you're being introduced to like formal logic, and like even the mathematics and stuff that I was taking were like very different than any other kind of mathematics. I was like, it was a lot of like new ways of thinking. And yeah, I think Python was a good place to start. I think it was, I first learned Python, and then it was Java, and then it was C and C++. Those are the ones we kind of learned in school.
You know what I had to learn in university? I had to learn Pascal in university.
Oh, sick. I've heard that one. I was like, he's either going to say assembly, Haskell, or Pascal.
Yeah. A bit of assembly as well, but mainly Pascal, and that was a pain. But yeah. Anyway,
I did the book 7 Languages in 7 Weeks. That one's a really fun one to just like dip your toes in the water and see all these different like kind of be able to compare the design and like decisions behind a bunch of different languages in a short period of time.
Which were the 7 ones?
Oh God, I gotta remember. Haskell was in there. Hold on, let me open it.
Was
up.
Pascal in there?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It was Ruby, Haskell. Let me like properly pull up the.
We can also link that book in the show notes.
At the time, I did this. We were doing like a live stream book club kind of thing, and we ended up. The author came on, and he was lovely. So it was Ruby, it was IO, Prolog, Haskell, Scala, Erlang, Clojure, and Haskell. It's like very
nice.
Broad range of languages. But it was nice. I think what I liked about that book was the fact that it didn't go too into the weeds, or it didn't start too like beginner. You know, it like assumed a certain level of competency. Like it was kind of one of those things. I think it even prefaced it in the book of like, if there's something that you're unfamiliar with, look it up. I'm not putting it in the book, but you can like, you know, if it's an unfamiliar term, like you can search it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like when it's always like annoying when you have to kind of work through a bunch of fluff. I feel like,
you know, I went back to learn C because I was always self-taught, and then I randomly decided I'd do the CS50 thing that Harvard do for free.
oh, cool.
So that's when I jumped back into learning C. I think I jumped straight from Java to JavaScript. I was probably young enough that I thought they were the same thing. But yeah, I think that was one of the cool things about CS50 as well, is sometimes they were like, yeah, you're just going to go have to look at the docs to try and find the answer here. Like, we don't want to tell you, because that is a skill you have to know as a developer, is how to research.
It is a skill you have to know as a developer, and it is one of much contention these days, it seems.
Yeah, AI, classic AI. We're on that part of the talk about coding. It's taken over a bit.
Have you used any AI, Bash?
I have, yeah. So I did. I've used it in my own workflow, which is like, I'll use it more as a reference for things, or like to ask further questions, to like basically deepen my understanding of a scope. I'll use it to, you know, be able to navigate an unfamiliar code base a little bit quicker. Like, I think there's a lot of things that used to take a lot of time that it can shorten that time without taking away from your understanding of the code base and your ability to problem solve and all of that kind of stuff. So that's typically how I like to use it. I've also done like the full blown vibe coding of like, there was a stream I did recently in LA that was, we were doing game dev for a week in a tower, and it was pure vibe code. We were using Cursor, and I wasn't footing the bill. So I was like, all right, you want pure vibes? Let's see. And that one, I didn't even look at I really didn't even look at the code base. And by the end of the week, I didn't know much about the code base, even though I had added a lot of features and all this stuff. So I think there's a lot of power and like a lot to be said about the fact that you're able to now kind of alleviate some of that mental load. Because I know that is something that a lot of developers struggled with burnout and everything, is like, it can just be like, there's only so many hours a day or even so many hours a week, even, because like we try and balance it out as much as we can, but like there's only so many hours a week that you can like put that kind of mental strain on yourself without it starting to wear on you. So I think it is really nice that it can kind of make that, like, alleviate that a little bit for developers and make our jobs a little bit easier as knowledge workers. I did feel that I was like, okay, this is like being on the far end of the spectrum of hardly reviewing the code, just checking that, oh, okay, the feature looks like it works. Let's go. Like, going purely on just like basically what the end user is seeing. I feel like it was a very interesting experience. I didn't find that it would lead to very positive things long term.
Sure.
Speaking about that challenge, I saw the last episode, and you did you like fail to launch it, or it crashed, or what happened afterwards?
So I think there was a certain point where like all of us had been up for so many hours and stuff, and I think it was supposed to be one of those things where it was just like, I think it was just supposed to be like easy to ship, or it was like, that was part of why I think we were using the stack that we had gone with for the game. But yeah, basically we followed the instructions, and we couldn't get it. We couldn't ship it. We couldn't get it to like build on different systems. Like, I think we were only able to get the Linux version up and working. Yeah, I can't quite remember everything, like what happened, but I think it was kind of at the point where we were all just like, I can't look at this anymore. And yeah, we were trying to get AI to figure out how to launch it. Nothing was working, and we were just like, I give up. We can't do it right now. Mentally done, cooked.
So it's kind of like an anti-commercial for vibe coding, I guess.
No. I think it was like, I genuinely think it was I was very impressed because the tab completions were great. That was one thing where I was just like, I feel like I want, because I mean, okay, for what it's worth, I think if I was somebody who probably like didn't enjoy the act of coding and problem solving, like to me, it's just like puzzles, and I love puzzles. So to me, it's almost like a little bit of a game, and I like that kind of like the challenge that it brings. So to me, to have something that like takes away all of that challenge, I'm like, no, I like that part. Wait, let me keep that. I feel like for people that don't kind of enjoy that as much, I feel like it's incredible being able to you don't have to make it. It doesn't have to be hard, or it doesn't have to be so hard, and you can still get results. And I think that for better or for worse, I have kind of like, I go back and forth between like, yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those things we won't know the super like long-term impacts of it until we see them. But for better or for worse, it also means that we're able to like deliver things more quickly and with less strain on us. So for business cases, I think it makes a lot of sense to be using AI. For me, it's more so just like, I just don't think that there can't be that very much like personal growth, personal skill development. Like, personal skill development, if you are relying on it purely, like you're not even touching code, it's all vibes. You know, you're just instructing it. It's the same way how like you could be really good at managing and like delegating things to people, and that can give you results. And I feel like it's a very similar thing of like, if you do that for long enough and you're not like hands-on in the coding, then like you can start to get a little bit rusty, you know, or a little bit like less familiar with the project because you're not like in it.
Yeah, AI is very good at, if you need the outcome, it will give you the outcome. But if you want the journey along the way, it's sort of taken the fun away from that. I was thinking about this recently because I think the hobby's been less fun for me, like hobby coding, because I know so much of what I was going to hobby code can now just be done in like one prompt. And I think I haven't managed to take away the bit of me that's like, well, just don't use AI. I think my brain's always like, well, you might as well use AI if it can do this that easily.
Don't you get curious though?
I don't know.
Like, how do you do this?
I think I do. And I said this in a recent video as well. Like, I wish I had AI when I was learning to code for Minecraft. And then I was like, but I probably don't actually, because I don't think I would have learned anything. I would have just got the end result of like the fun thing I wanted to do in Minecraft instead of I now know Java. And I think knowing Java made it way easier for me to learn other languages, because once you learn one, they are pretty similar sort of concepts in a lot of them. And I definitely wouldn't have that.
It sometimes almost takes the joy out of problem solving because the problems are being solved for you in a way.
Are you someone though that like if a tool already exists, you won't rewrite that thing just to figure out how it works?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
I think I'll just use the tool. I think that's my biggest problem at the moment. I think I need to ban myself from AI when I'm doing like a hobby project.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at too. I can understand why, like for companies, it's like, you know, speed is so important. So I can understand why companies would incentivize the use of AI and like why you would want to use it in a corporate setting. Like, again, for a lot of the reasons that I already said of like, it also makes your life easier, like less stressful at work. Potentially, if your management is good. There's also like the flip side of that where management is now like, oh, perfect, we can do more things with fewer people. And now let's put more pressure on you. And also there's no accountability for like what the code that is written with AI. It's like, well, what are you going to blame AI? No, it now still falls on you. So you have like a larger scope of things you're now responsible for. That's like that can be very hard to track. But I think in a business setting, it's like, yeah, speed is the priority. You can and should be using whatever tools are at your disposal to be able to like get that goal faster. I do think that for hobby projects, though, I think like as a human being, like this is again my personal. You live your life how you want to live your life, you know. But like I think that as human beings, and if you genuinely enjoy programming, there needs to be like a balance of. I think if you like go ham with AI, work time, whatever, but you still need like sometimes where you're like, hey, let me like do this just for the sake of learning. Let me just get depth here. Let me just like enjoy the process. Let me like do something that is difficult so that my threshold, my tolerance for challenge doesn't get nerfed.
Yeah, completely agree. I think if you're working a full-time job and you have to code every day, it does kind of make sense to, but but then in your spare time for your hobbies, you can learn a new language or rewrite SQL Lite from scratch or something.
Yeah.
And do that without AI so you can level yourself up. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, because also I think when you're as an employee, you're kind of supposed to act in the best interest of the company. And it's in the best interest of the company that you operate quickly, that things just work, that you're pushing these new features, that you're debugging things quickly, all of these things. But that is, so like your personal development, I think I think that companies should have like some time per week for skill development for their developers, for knowledge workers in general. I don't think it's fair to expect that everyone has the bandwidth to be able to do that outside of work, and yet to like continue to expect performance increases. Yeah, I think that if you're at work, you got to prioritize the what's best for the company, which is generally just shipping things faster, and learning is a separate thing.
Speaking of shipping things faster, this is not a good segue, but I'll try anyway. Your laptop broke.
Oh yeah,
you've got a framework. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's speaking of shipping things, me changing my tiling window manager to a new one that's giving me some growing learning pains. Everything. It's funny. It's just like a very scuffed. The Wayland. So I'm using Sway now. I was using i3 for years, and it was incredibly stable and everything. But then I got a bunch of flack for it when I posted about it on YouTube. And I was like, you know what? I'm sure these people on the internet know what they're talking about. And I think they're right. I should try a new tiling window manager. So I moved to Sway because it was supposed to be like the easiest path forward from i3. And it uses Wayland under the hood, and there's a lot. And whereas i3 was using X server or like X11, and there's been a lot of changes because there are a lot of applications require X server to run. So even when you're running Wayland, like you have, I don't know. There's just like a lot of things you have to kind of like start properly in order to be able to like launch all of the applications that you want. And then it's like display mirroring isn't supported by default in Wayland. There's like an external, like to be able to like plug in an external monitor and just mirror the screen is not supported by default. So you have like a third party plugin that you need to install and run in order to mirror your display. And that's what kept happening is I think what was happening is I would run that command while I would have an external monitor like plugged in. And then when I would unplug it, it just would go into this crazy like infinite looping situation. And it was just like mirroring itself on itself and forever. But yeah, it's led to some funny little videos, some funny little moments that I've captured.
Yeah, I'm not brave enough to have a main Linux machine. So I use a Mac. I think we all use Macs as well. And I think those are the kind of things that put me off.
Okay, but I'm on the far end of the spectrum.
I know, but I know you're a Nix OS kind of person. I use Nix Darwin on Mac. It's not the same, but it works similarly well enough. I'm happy with where I'm at. But yeah, just small things like that kind of put me off. But you do it. You can stream with it, so I guess it's possible. It's just not there yet.
I mean, so far, it's one of those things too where it's like I'm also kind of incentivized to do it. It's good. It allows me to like talk to more people in the space and understand where they're coming from when I try these things. Whether I like Sway or not, like there's a whole set of Sway users that want to talk to me about tiling window managers, and I can only understand their perspective if I try it. So I think it's more so too. It's like because I'm kind of in like the public space in that way. It's like, and I really like connecting with people. That's like a big driver for me for doing everything and anything that I do publicly. I just really like connecting with other people and hearing their perspective and trying to understand where they're coming from and all of that kind of stuff. So for me, if it even if it's a little bit painful, if it gives me like an opportunity for better connection with other people, I'm happy to try it out. And this one's a bit painful. I'm not recommending it yet.
I think I've tried Linux as my main and always fallen at like compatibility issues, and like I need Final Cut for my job, so I need a Mac most of the time. And then like with gaming and stuff on my PC, I've like dual booted it, but then I just run out of space and end up wanting my Windows back. But it's coming.
There are a lot of Linux distros out there that are very stable, very user-friendly. Even like I was using Pop! OS for a while, which is supported. It's backed by a company, backed by System 76, which is nice because then at least there's some accountability for support and stuff like that. There's a lot out there that's quite stable, and even like the gaming, like Steam runs well on Linux. I think it just depends on the game because some anti-cheat, it's like it has to be Windows or it doesn't work. And I will say I've also had a challenging time using a Linux machine for video editing. I also don't know if it's like, I've only tried it on my desktop PC, which has an NVIDIA graphics card, which is like, kind of notoriously annoying with Linux in different ways. So I am curious. I'm going to try and get DaVinci Resolve working on my new framework laptop, and I'm going to see if I can get it working. Because like before, it would launch, but then I don't know. There was a bunch of stuff like I think the previewer wasn't working, and like there was just a bunch of stuff that didn't quite work right. But I know what you mean. I do think that Mac gives you a very like versatile environment that you can work with. I will say I think with Linux, it's kind of one of those things where I think it's quite similar to like using Vim motions in an editor. I feel like it's okay. Yeah, we're back to that. We're circling back. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like the more that you want to do with your bash scripts and stuff like that, the more you start to realize like the power of being able to configure your entire machine from your terminal versus like obviously Mac kind of like locks that in a sense. Like you're like limited with how much you can kind of configure in that way. Also, just in terms of like customization, all of that kind of stuff, like ricing is very fun. I'm down in the rabbit hole. This is also part of why it's fun. It causes me pain, but it's worth it for me. I like tweaking my system. But I will say Mac is great if you are a developer and you just want things to just work. It's excellent.
I mean, yeah, it is pretty similar, like what VS Code is to like Emacs and Vim. It's like if you want it to just work, you can use the one that does already work and everything's out of the box and ready to go.
I will say, I think like Ubuntu, Mint, Pop! OS, I've heard very, very good things about those ones for just like they work out of the box. They're very good. But again, it depends on what your needs are, because if you're doing a lot of video editing, I'd have to try on Nix and see if I can get DaVinci Resolve, because again, I think it can be like a graphics driver problem or something with app compatibility. And it's different too, because like obviously Apple has like all of their hardware and everything is proprietary. Like it's completely built to all work together all the time. They have just such a kind of like, how do I say, not quite sandbox environment, but like, like everything in their pipeline is so locked in. It's so made for itself. Yeah. So it's a bit of a hard one to compare to, but I know actually a lot of developers who have a setup where they use a Mac, but then they SSH into a Linux desktop or even like a hosted like Linux environment for their development.
Yeah, I do that a few times. I have Proxmox running on like a server that I have in the house, and then I think most of the servers on there run Ubuntu for random home automation stuff. So yeah, I think that is a good way to do it. Yeah, I got into Home Assistant. I've actually been quite anti smart homes. I've always found like I just want a light switch, just give me a light switch. But then I learn a bit of Home Assistant and how you can script like lights to turn on all together at the same time and like loads of different modes. And then I sort of went down that rabbit hole recently. So it's been quite fun.
That's fun. I think the smart home stuff for me is like being able to turn all of my lights off is nice. If they have any kind of like irrigation stuff, I'm hopeless with plants. I'll kill them. They're all dead. And then even being able to just check on if you have like home security stuff, being able to like do all that and have like sensors and all that jazz is kind of fun.
Yeah, the thing that made me make the jump in the end was I had so many things that had like smart capabilities, but they all had different apps. But I was like, this is way too many apps. It's like I just want Home Assistant, and that cleared it all up and made it way easier. Because every single one has to have like its own hub and proprietary app, and it's so painful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I use some Elgato stuff, and I feel the pain. Yeah. Even, I mean, they're all on the same app, but like the app it's interesting. They're kind of, Elgato is kind of notorious for having like rough software.
Yeah, I have that prompter, and I hate the camera prompter software. And most of Elgato software is it just always breaks on me for some reason.
Yeah, I had my lights go out for like a full day. It just wouldn't connect in the app.
Yeah,
like the app could not detect it, and I was like, okay, I've done all the things, all the troubleshooting things, and the next day it worked. I was like, okay, I love computers.
Yeah, I used to have that with the lights, but they seem to be fine at the moment. They seem to work well.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's nice. When they work, they're great.
But going back to what you said earlier about some developers SSH into a Linux machine, I think I've only heard of Dax. I'm sure you know Dax. He's the open code guy. Yeah, he does that. He's quite famous for doing that. And the problem I see, well, there are multiple problems, but one I see is, what if your internet goes? How are you supposed to work? Or like, what if you want to use something with the UI? Do you have to? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's, if you're doing stuff with the UI, either I think maybe you just don't, or you have like if you use something like Tailscale, and you can still like do remote connection in a different kind of way to be able to probably like test those things. But yeah, I know. This is part of why I've only done it to like code from the couch, you know. If I'm too lazy, I'm like mid changes, and I'm like, I shouldn't push these. Let me just like SSH into my other machine, like from my laptop. I do think, yeah, you need a reliable internet connection. I think I asked him about that as well, and he was like, yeah, I just always need to be on the internet. But then he's like, who's coding without the internet? I don't know if he actually said that, but I think that's what a lot of developers say. It's like, who's coding without the
internet? That was my
anyway?
first thought. If the internet goes down, like the second I'd get stuck on a problem, I'd be screwed anyway. I'd need the docs or AI to help me out. So.
Oh, actually, wait, let me put you on something. There's something called DevDocs that's really handy if you are ever coding. Well, it's offline enabled.
Okay.
You can, it's developer documentation. It'll have like full, like APIs, everything that you need for like the language that you're learning. It's really good. Yeah, devdocs.io.
I have to check that out, because I actually ran into the problem when I was trying to do some stuff on a flight, and I was like, it doesn't have internet, and I was like, but now I'm stuck on a problem, and I don't really have AI because the local LLM models aren't that good. And then so I might
have you tried Qwen 3?
I've tried.
I've heard really
recently,
good things about Qwen 3.
And then Minimax.
Did it not go?
But I don't know. It couldn't help me when I was on the plane. I think it depends on the level of problem, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough. People ask me, it's funny. On stream, people just ask me like, I don't know why. I am very much like, I will continuously say, guys, I'm just a girl coding. Like, I'm not the expert on all of it. They're like, is this the best model to use? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just using a model, I'm like, oh man. I was like, the burden of influence, I guess.
Yeah, the answer to that question changes every week as well. I think that it's a running joke when you watch Theo's videos. It's like the new best model counter is always in the comments, and it's like, but technically it is the new best model. It's just moving so fast. There's just always a new one every week.
I think that's healthy, though.
A lot of times it's very vibe based. Like some people just preach one model because it works for them or whatever. Or
yeah, like this one has a good personality. I like this one.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, Opus is the one that I think is quite vibe-based for me. You can tell me in benchmarks sometimes that Opus is beat by like 5.2, but I don't know. Claude and Opus seem to have something that works well for most of the problems I put it up against.
Ever since I tried Haiku, I just really love Haiku, so I'm still using it.
I didn't think anyone used that one.
I've heard good things about Kimmy.
Yeah, Kimmy's quite good.
Okay, Kimmy K2. Yeah. I've used it a bit of times. It's not my main. My main is a GLM 4.7. That's another Chinese model. That's really good. Works well with open code. You get it for free. But yeah, I like jumping between models. So GLM is cool. I use Opus occasionally and GPT 5.2. But yeah, I just jump between different models, whatever I feel like at the time.
It's hard to keep up sometimes with what the new model of the week is. It's like stick to what works for you until it like hits a problem that it can't solve, and then see if the next model can.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good way to approach most things. I'm like, we don't need to overcomplicate this. Let's just work with what we got here and then improve it as needed. I think people overthink that. Even like I catch myself doing that on streams as well. Like if I'm coding while I'm on stream, then it's like you get people that are like nitpicking your code like while it's like your first implementation of the thing. And then I'm like, wait, okay. And then I start to do it, and then I'm like, hold on, girl, like just make it bad first, aim for it to be bad, and that's okay. And then it'll bother you, and you'll fix it.
I think I get stuck on that problem when I'm like building apps for myself. Sometimes it's like, oh, but I need to add in like this new feature that does this. And it's like, you're the only one using it. It's like, it doesn't need to be a smooth process. You can always just go and fix it when you run into that problem. But for some reason, it's always like thinking about how users are going to use the app that I definitely am never going to release to the public anyway. So it's, I think sometimes you over-engineer things that you don't need to.
Just focus on an MVP. Just have an MVP on your mind and just go with it.
And let there be pain points. That's a good signal that something needs to change. It's okay for things to be a little bit painful.
But the thing is, AI has kind of made it worse for me because I'm sometimes like, if I am prompting with AI and vibe coding a bit, I'm like, well, it can add this feature really quickly. So let's just do it. And then I just go down a rabbit hole of trying to add a feature that wasn't needed in the first place because AI is trying to do it now. And it's I definitely need to go on like a week ban from AI while I'm trying a new project or something.
When you are kind of like learning new skills and or trying out new projects, whatever. What are your favorite resources right now? Obviously AI, probably top of the list. Yeah. AI, assuming AI is at the top of the list. Like even for me, I'd say AI is like at the top of the list for just being able to get information quickly and learn something new very quickly.
I'm largely YouTube based, I think. I sort of live on YouTube for it's how I learned to code was someone on YouTube making like developer videos for Minecraft and Java. And I just stick to sort of YouTube and go from there.
Have you watched any YouTube videos in the last year that are like specific to learning a new skill, or it's like mostly AI?
Mostly AI. I watch a lot of developer content on there. To be honest, I can't bring up specific examples, but obviously I watch like a lot of Theo, Dax when he posts videos, Primogen, and just watching other people learn skills. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to go try that, and then I'll try it myself.
Yeah.
And I think I watch YouTube more than anything. So yeah, it's hard to count specific videos because to be honest, I think I watch a bit too much of it, but that's probably why I also do YouTube is because I've watched a lot of it.
Yeah.
I usually go to the documentation page and straight to the hello world example and just try to replicate that and then go from there.
Yeah. I always try and like, I do something similar. I'm like, okay, show me usage examples. And then I try like tweak it, like break it a little bit.
Exactly.
And I'm like, why didn't this work? Why did this work?
But actually, speaking of taking a break from AI, the other day I like turned off, like, no, I didn't turn off. I just didn't use the AI model, but I turned on the auto completion again. And I kind of found the joy of working with auto completion again. It was like a popular method for a time, but then AI took over and everyone started vibe coding. I kind of like that when you can code and then it will suggest the next line for you and like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And then you kind of think on your own, like what's going to be the next line and how the code is going to continue in a way.
Yeah. I think if I had that built into my editor, I would probably use that the most. Out of like, I think I like being able to. Have you tried
implementing it in one of your?
Oh, in Emacs? Yeah. I looked at some different. There's like some different packages that some people are using for AI completions, but honestly, I feel like at that point, I'd probably just use an editor that like has all that stuff built in, because then you have like the chat option if you do want to like get a bit more context on the project or like bounce ideas where it's context aware. But yeah, I liked the tab completion. I think that was my favorite thing in Cursor when I tried it. The only thing is I'm like, I better make sure I don't have like the tab pause,
where you write a bit of text and then you're waiting for autocomplete to catch up. I didn't actually know that had a term.
Instead of thinking, you pause and you wait for what it's going to say instead of like thinking what you want to do. Yeah, that's called the tab.
But I find
pause.
That's still better than just vibe coding, because then at least you're writing something on your own.
Well, at least you're like you're making changes with a scope in mind. Like you're making changes and you're actually you know where you are in the code base, or like you're seeing some code in the code base, and you kind of know like what's going on around that. I think if you're too far away, it's like you're basically just a manager for the project, which is a very different level of involvement and awareness of the goings on. And yeah, I also agree. I think the tab completion is I think that one is great. I was like, I think if we had like AI worked with our LSP to just do like the perfect little, because sometimes I don't want it to suggest a full solution, but like I do like when it'll suggest a name, or it'll suggest like like just like better suggestions like based on the context of the project. And I find sometimes LSPs can either be really slow with that or like not suggest those things. So I need better performance from LSPs.
I was going to say, I tried to learn a language like late last year, and I found AI wasn't really the best way to learn, like from scratch. Like if you say, okay, so actually, I want to learn X, tell me how to do simple things on it. It was just try and do it for you. It wouldn't teach you. So I think if I was learning something, I'd usually go to the docs, and like today I'm going to go to YouTube as well, just to see someone use it and explain what everything does. But I think docs are a good resource, especially on open source repos. If there are docs, it's quite helpful to go through that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of books. I don't necessarily always read, like especially technical books. Like I don't always necessarily read them front to back. I feel like there's so many times where I try to do that, and then I get sidetracked for a bit, and then I like, I have to start again from the beginning. And it's like this cycle of like never getting past a certain point, because it's like inevitably you're going to have other priorities because you're an adult. But what I do like with books is I'll just like jump to certain sections that are relevant to like what I want to learn. So like I'll jump to a specific chapter, and I'm just like, okay, this I'm finding most interesting of like in the topics, all of the topics covered in this book. Let me just read this. It's potentially out of my depth, which is fine, because I don't need to read it to like fully understand the first time. I'm reading it to like get exposure to all of these terms and like seeing those things in context. And then I can go back and like learn more about those terms, and either doing so through going back in the book and learning about those things, or like asking AI about these I feel like AI is very good when you give it a very limited scope in particular. It like really, really excels with that. But yeah, I love books for that. I do think that when I learn a new language, it's always going to be using a book, because it's just it gives you such a good like skeleton for things, like it gives you such a clear path forward, which I think can be like the hardest thing when you're learning something new, is like you don't know what you don't know. You can't like search for something that you don't know exists yet. So I find it really good for that kind of stuff. But yeah, docs are great as well. Do you guys know learnxinYminutes.com? That's a great little website as well. That one is like, it's learn X and Y minutes. You can do, it'll be like / whatever language, but you can, they've got like Python, they've got Rust, and it just is, here, I'll show you the Python one. I don't know if there's a chat here. So for the audio listeners, learn X and Y minutes gives you a summary for all of the syntax and everything for a specific language. So it can be really handy if you're just trying to remember the basics of like how you can do like different like string operations, or like how you write like Boolean values, the different types. It just gives you, it's just a whole page of examples in that language, which can be a really helpful reference, especially if you've already done kind of the basics. You understand the basics of the language and how it does things, but you're just needing to figure out specific syntax. This can be kind of a fun little.
It's like a good cheat sheet, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's great. They've got like so many languages in there, and it gives you a great little reference. It's a good one.
I think the other resource I used a lot when I was sort of self-learning how to develop was honestly just open source projects that did a similar thing. I would just sort of tear them apart. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to just put a console like log statement on every single line, because I didn't even know what breakpoints were at that point. I hadn't set that up in my IDE, and literally just see like stepping through each function and how each one pieced together. So yeah, I've always sort of taken open source and torn it apart to see how a certain feature that I wanted to add into my app worked, and then try and rebuild it instead of just like copy it from one to the other. It's the same with like NPM packages sometimes. It's like I don't want the NPM package. I just want a certain feature from it. So I'm just going to go try and rebuild it instead of relying on another package to do the same thing.
I think that's a great way to learn.
Yeah.
Also, I do something similar with pull requests as well. Like often you can find the specific PR where they added that feature. And then that's like a small enough scope where you don't necessarily need a huge understanding of the code base always. But even if you do find that you're like reading through the PR and you don't understand it, like that is a case where I'll definitely use AI as like in the context of like learning how some feature works in plain English in another project so that I can at least understand like the design of it, the logic of it and all of that. And then I can try and implement it on my own. Do you think that in the current landscape, I kind of just did a little potentially spicy little tweet on how AI affects open source projects. That's one thing that I noticed when I was maintaining a lot of the Charm stuff, was that there was a lot more kind of like low effort contributions to the point where like the authors hadn't even tested to see if it was compatible, if the changes were compatible. Yeah. And it just leads to like it can put such a huge burden on maintainers. It's like causing a real big imbalance in the open source space in particular, to the point where like a lot of projects are now starting to limit contribution capabilities on their projects. You say that you still use open source projects to learn, just because like those code bases, it's like somebody else who like allegedly knows what they're doing, most likely knows what they're doing to some degree. Now, if a lot of people are like vibe coding projects and there's a lot more to kind of like filter through, do you still think that it's a really good resource? And if so, like how do you if it's somebody, especially if they're newer to programming, like how do you decide whether it's a good project or not to like learn from?
To be honest, a lot of the time I just filter for either developers I know through either their work or a company they work for, and then see if they've done an open source project that has something. And I think I just have more trust that they've actually written the code or at least know what it does. So yeah, if it's a project that only has like a few stars, I try and stay away from it, because I feel like it hasn't been vetted and may have been vibe coded. Whereas when it's like a big project, or as I said, a developer that I trust, I would tend to go for that more than, I think open source and, as you said, AI it's a pretty big problem. I think it was the maintainer of curl says he gets a lot of AI like cybersecurity issues, and half of them are just not even real. I think one of them, like the AI literally just wrote its own success for its proof of concept. Like at the end of the script, it was like, it's a success, even though it did absolutely nothing. And the guy still submitted it. And it adds a lot of brain drain for the maintainers of these open source projects, that it's time they don't need to waste looking at AI pull requests. But that's sort of how I try and filter it if I am trying to learn from open source. Is just, you just sort of have to trust certain sources now.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say I do something similar. I also have like kind of a handful of people that I trust their work and I like follow their work. I actually, like, I've mentioned this before on different social platforms of like, I love like my version of like doom scrolling is like, I'll actually just like scroll through the GitHub Explore page and just like see what people I follow are working on and stuff like that. Cause I find it very inspiring. I feel good doing that instead of like doom scrolling social media. But there's usually like a handful of people that I follow, and like I will like I'll just like go check their GitHub every once in a while, see what they're working on, and like see just like PRs that they've been doing, like read through some of their changes, even if it's not like, I think there's a lot we don't give our brains enough credit. There's a lot that we absorb just through like exposure without depth, just exposure. There's a lot that we absorb that like helps us understand things quicker down the line. I think there's a lot that we take in subconsciously that can be really helpful. So I think just like, I also really like doing that, having specific people to follow and then trying to keep up to an extent with what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm very happy I learned to code as a kid and sort of didn't have AI, because as I said, it really did help you sort of learn the process and how to get there instead of just having the outcome. And I don't think I would know what I know now without that, because I've just used AI to try to get to the end result, and then I don't know what I'd do if it went wrong. It's curious how new people are sort of going to learn it. I don't know how CS is going to change or anything like that. I don't even know, to be honest. This is whole world discussion how AI is going to change everything, not even coding, in terms of learning. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to like it reminds me of social media in a lot of ways, in the sense of like I think it really shortens the feedback cycle. And I think there's only, like, my personal opinion is that there's only so much growth that you can get in without the challenge. It's like, you know, you can take, it's very similar to even like our physical bodies, right? It's like you can take diet pills and stuff like that. But as soon as you don't have those, it's like it falls back to your habits. And like, it's only through difficulty and challenge and resistance that you're able to like build muscle and be like, you know, it's like even walking is like, that is a very healthy thing, and it puts like some level of strain on the body. It's like, I think you always need something like that, even for your brain. That is like how you keep it healthy and how you how you learn. I don't think like there's a reason why like even recall has been notoriously the best way to learn, like the most well-researched best way to learn. And it's because it's kind of the most taxing. It's like, it's a lot harder to try and remember things than it is to like read a book. But I do think how we assess, how we quantify learning, I think is definitely going to change.
You mentioned books before. Is there like one best coding book that you've ever read that you could recommend, if there is one?
I think obviously there's going to be, I really like books that are like specific to a specific programming language that I'm learning and stuff. Like it's really good to have depth on things when you're spending so much time with it. I think as like a more generalized like programming book, I really liked The Pragmatic Programmer. That one was really good. I also really like a lot of like Martin Fowler's work. He has a great blog as well. I like to check on his website every once in a while, and he's got some really interesting takes. I just think I love hearing different people's perspectives and like how they solve problems and like how they approach different, like everyone's workflows can be so different. And I think it just so much has to do with just how your brain works and different, you know, trials and errors in the workplace that we don't often hear about. And I really, really appreciate when people share those kinds of things online. I'm a big fan of just like reading people's blogs just to get a little, it's like gives you a little preview of what's going on in their brains, you know? But yeah, Martin Fowler has a great blog, has some great books. But I also really liked The Pragmatic Programmer.
Is it Martin Fowler the guy who wrote Clean Code? Or is it someone else?
No, I think that's Bob Martin, if I'm not mistaken.
Fine.
I could be wrong. Hold on.
I think it is Bob, because he's Uncle Bob on Twitter and he has some interesting takes over there.
Yeah, I think the big one that I read from Martin Fowler was Refactoring, improving the design of existing code. But yeah, his blog is really, really nice, like light reading to stay up to date on stuff.
Cool. Yeah. If we were to change topics and just go to streaming for a bit, so I just can't imagine having people watch me write code. Like if I was in an interview and one person was watching me write code, I'd get very nervous. You have thousands of people watching you almost every day. Like, how do you do it?
So I get to set the tone in the community of how people are coming in. Like, sure, social media is a public space, but also your channels on social media this is not just like a bathroom wall. This is like, you don't get to just say whatever you want here. Like there are like etiquette. There are like standards for the etiquette for like how you're going to talk to others, how you're going to treat each other. And to me, your skill level as a programmer does not change how welcomed you are in my community. So when it comes to like any kind of shaming, any kind of like ego of like, oh, I've been doing this for X number of years, so I'm better. Like none of that, like all of that gets left at the door. Like none of that is allowed. A big part of that is because like I know, like I had in all of my CS classes, I'd be in a lecture hall of 300 people and there were 1 to 3 women. I'm very used to like, I know what it's like to kind of be on the outskirts of things a little bit and how much pressure can build in that isolation. And I really want my community online to be a space where people are excited to code and they get a break from that self-imposed pressure. I think it's very easy. It's a hard thing to do. Coding, it can be very difficult, and sometimes your brain doesn't work, and it can be incredibly frustrating, and you still have to find a way to overcome that. And so I think the biggest value that I try to bring is that, hey, I'm just doing my own thing. Call it good, call it bad, call it whatever you want. That doesn't change what I'm doing. That I'm just doing me. And I think that messaging, and me not being hard on myself in front of other people as well, of like, I try to catch myself of like, if I'm having an off day and things are hard and like, I feel like I'm moving slow, I try not to say that, because I also know that like there are some people watching that are like, oh yeah, she's coding slow. They're going to like, that are thinking that. They're not allowed to say that. Well, they're not allowed to say that. You know, compliments only. No, I'm just kidding. You can only tell them my code is beautiful. There are going to be some people that are thinking that. There are going to be some people that are thinking, I hope that I can code like this one day. And it's not it's not right for me to get to be the person to set that bar. It's not for anyone else to set that bar. I just want it to be a comfortable space where like, hey, we just like to code. Let's just hang out. Let's code. I am willing to be the one, the sacrifice a little bit. I will sacrifice my whole ego to make this a comfortable space for everyone. I really don't care if you think my code is bad. I've noticed that I have learned my growth learning curve has been like exponential since I started streaming, because people will give me feedback on things. And what I've found is like generally the people that are giving that negativity, they're not necessarily the people I want to learn from. Like the people that are really, really good at what they do are generally not the ones that are tearing other people down. They're the ones who are like, they have a genuine like love for what they're doing. And that means they want other people to experience that. They want to like uplift others. They're excited for other people to learn new things. And I've found that there are a lot of people in my community that have that mindset. And I feel very lucky to just be somebody who gets to like bring people like that together and create a safe space for that. So to me, it's worth the sacrifice of me having any kind of label on how I feel about my programming. I'm just programming, and I get the opportunity to learn from all of these people, and I get the opportunity to potentially inspire or motivate other people. And I just kind of try to separate any kind of ties to, you know, my performance. And of course it's easier to do on some days and harder to do on other days. But I think at the end of the day, what I try to do too, if I am having one of those days of like a little bit of insecurity, I'll just be like, you know what? I feel like I'm not feeling as confident with this stuff today. That's okay to just feel like that. And that doesn't mean I need to change anything about what I'm doing or how I'm showing up. But maybe that means that like, what are some solutions? Like what can give me more confidence? Like maybe that means that I start a new learning path. Maybe that means that I need to shift my perspective a bit or whatever. But yeah, ultimately it's like, I just want to create a really like welcoming and warm community for people of all levels. And I have no room or patience for people who want to be who want to be put others down. I just don't think it's like, why? You're just mad. It's a you problem. Yeah. Whether I'm here or not, you're just mad. Oh, pardon. I think you broke up for me for a sec. Any hot takes? Ooh. I mean, I think the hottest take that I have is just the one on AI. I just think like a lot of that's the one that people have been like pushing back on me the most, I think, right now. Maybe just because it's such a big topic on tech Twitter or something, where there's a lot of people that are saying like you should only be using AI, like you should always be using AI exclusively, which I think whoever's, good marketing. But I think that challenge is really important, and I think it's important I think it's important to keep that threshold up of like, you need to have a certain tolerance for challenge and difficulty, and you won't be able to do that if you're always taking the easy route. If there is a shortcut, that's fine, but make sure that you're taking them wisely and not that it's not coming at the expense of like more longer term impacts. I think that's the hottest take I can do because I'm
I'm gonna say that's not really a hot take. Like a lot of people think like that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not really somebody like I don't really die on any hills. You know what I mean? Like I'm just kind of like I'm very open-minded to change. So I'm just kind of like I don't think I really have that much of hot takes because I also don't think that negatively about things in general. So I'm kind of just like I just if somebody's off doing something I don't kind of agree with, I'm just kind of like, okay, well you do that. I'm gonna do what I'm doing, and it doesn't. That's like the extent of the thought in my mind, and then it's gone. So, yeah, I don't know. Hot take.
Maybe the
that's
hot
a healthy
take is,
mindset. I would say.
is not having hot takes. That's the hot take.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it's more advice than a hot take, but we'll see. I would say be careful, beware of people who are all-knowing. Anyone who has these like very, very strong opinions online and is like, I'm right, and they always seem to be on the right, in the right. Just take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, it is like the classic, the smartest person is the person who knows what they don't know. It's like it's a lot more respectful to ask questions instead of assuming you're correct on everything.
Yeah, well, I also I see a lot online of people. They just like they speak with enough confidence, enough like the right tone, the right conviction, and for whatever it is in programming in particular, I feel like we're like particularly susceptible to it, where people just believe they must be right with that kind of confidence and everything. So just take things with a grain of salt. Form your own opinions.
No, saying tech Twitter can be a wild place of arguments in there. It's always quite fun to watch the debates go on, and how many people sort of jump in sometimes.
Like the Michael Jackson popcorn meme.
Yeah, you just sort of watch it from the sidelines.
Cool. All right. I think this is a good point to kind of wrap up. Where can people find you, Bash?
Ooh, okay. Now's my moment. I do have a website, bashbunni.dev, and that has links to all of my socials. But I will be very active this year on YouTube, Twitch, x.com is pseudobunny. Everything else is under Bashbunni. And I'll also be probably posting more on Instagram and all that jazz as well. But I think YouTube and Twitch are my favorite platforms. I think that's where you get the best community.
Well, in that case, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Better Start podcast. Find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, wherever, we're all on there. And that is it. So that would be a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me.